7 a.m., and you are now invited to listen to the Morning Watch with the Reverend Dr. Dylan Toussaint.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you're overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, Starved and Abused, exploring and exposing why we need laws to protect our elderly. And in the second watch, the possible fallout from a student visa freeze and going forward. For our social media question, we ask, what laws do we need to protect our elderly? Share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's our quote.
All right, so today's I quote says, "If you aim at nothing, that's exactly what you'll hit." Attributed to Zig Ziglar.
Okay, good morning, Jokal.
Good morning.
I guess the moral of that quote is to aim for something at least.
I guess so.
Yeah. And, I wanted to you heard you talking about the Sahara dust earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's over 4,000 miles that thing travel from.
That's crazy.
I mean,
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, and I think people need to be careful in terms of their eyes as well.
For sure.
Because it can affect them.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first watch will be back after this break.
Next time on The Rock, we're digging into marriage traditions. Pastor Christopher Kennedy, Azan Aziz, and Donald Stewart join the conversation as we unpack where our wedding traditions come from. Rings, vows, attire, candles, and more. Are these traditions biblical, cultural, or just man-made? And what happens when we challenge them? From church weddings to giveaway parents, we're asking, why do we do what we do? And what does the Bible really say? Plus, a piece of my mind. What's this week's hot topic? Could be crime, health, education, or a total curveball. Tune in and find out. That's The Rock, Tuesday, June 3 at 10 a.m. right here on the family station Love 101.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, contrary to the many instructions and guidelines offered in the Bible, many are not taking care of the elderly the way they should. And reportedly, proposals for an Elderly Care and Protection Act are now being examined. But what are the possible issues and implications associated with the implementation of such laws? Well, to share with us their views on the matter, we have online Jean Laurie Chin, founder and the CEO of Caribbean Community of Retired Persons, and Carita Lawrence, nurse educator and a caregiver. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners.
Thank you. Carita Lawrence?
Hi, morning.
Yes, good morning to you. You sound far away though. Yes, morning again.
How is that now?
Not better at all. Let's try again. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have Jean Laurie Chin and we have Carita Lawrence with us. I want to begin with you, Jean Laurie Chin. What really is the Elderly Care and Protection Act, and what is its present status as you understand it?
Well, Dr. Toussaint, we at CCRP, we have been advocating for this act since 2017. I refer to some newspaper clippings because once we started CCRP, we started to get calls, complaints about um, elderly abuse. And of course, there were reports about the conditions in some care homes.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we reached out to the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. The minister then was Minister Shahini Robinson, a wonderful lady, and she even sent her legal team over to meet with us. And we had a legal committee. We researched, we found countries, Commonwealth countries with similar laws that could be used to model this legislation. Sadly, Minister Robinson passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we didn't really get very much traction from that ministry. Then, thank goodness, last year, Senator Floyd Morris, he moved a motion in the Senate for this act to be created. And Senator Shireen Golding Campbell immediately seconded it and offered to chair the committee. Now, usually when these motions are passed, you kind of wait and hope. But they were immediately pushed into action. And so if you check public broadcasting on YouTube, you'll see that they have been having hearings almost every week
Mm-hmm.
with various stakeholders. And we were happy to present our views about a month ago to the select committee of the Senate. So what we would like to see, we would like to envision legislation that is going to protect elderly people from physical, psychological, and emotional, sexual, financial abuse, and of course, neglect and abandonment, which is a very serious form of abuse. And what we're seeing is a lot of focus. We're seeing a lot of interest from the select committee and from the other stakeholders. The National Council have presented. The morning we presented, we had a social worker.
Mm-hmm.
We also had the head of the Psychiatry Association. And, a lot of folks are on board because this is not to do just with the elderly. This is to do with every single person, every single Jamaican, because one day, if we're lucky, we're going to get there. And we should want to know that we will be protected.
So, based on all of what you said a while ago, the Elderly Care and Protection Act will be addressing those concerns.
It will be addressing those concerns, and we're calling for very, very strong penalties to dissuade persons from doing this, because we have heard too many awful horror stories about elderly abuse.
Yeah. Carita Lawrence, you are a nurse, educator, and a caregiver yourself. Any concerns, commendations in regard to this proposed act? Carita Lawrence,
Are you hearing
are you
me?
muted? Yes. Go ahead, please. Hearing you
Right.
now.
Right. As Miss Laura Chin has said, neglect is one of our biggest problem because of the social media now that the young people has taken up. Well, they might not see it as a neglect, but
Hmm.
patients are left alone, or nurses are rushing to feed patients prior to spending time ensuring that they eat. So for some patients, they have not gotten enough meal or the timing or the way that they would need to sit and consume whatever they are supposed to be consuming. It is cut short. So neglect is one of our biggest concern that persons don't even realize that it is actually an abuse.
Yes. And same one in neglect though. What does that constitute really? Because we
Repeat
hear
that
people
question
talk
again.
about it, but is it just not being around? I mean, are there more factors to neglect?
Yes, there are. It's not just being around because sometimes you are around, you're present, your body is present there, but
Right.
physically your emotional towards the person is not being there. And as we are speaking of seniors, they need empathy. They need persons to understand them. They need persons to sit and spend time with them. Just socialing with them makes a big difference.
Yes, yes. Jean Laurie Chin,
Yes,
the Maintenance Act has been around,
has
and
been.
yeah, yeah. How effective has it been in addressing the concerns you raised? Because I guess
Do
some
you
people are wondering why have this act if you have the Maintenance Act already?
do you know we could not find one case? We could not find one case of anybody acting on this legislation, and we think it is because frailty, maybe. But I think also that these elderly persons feel that there may be reprisals. They are intimidated, and therefore, one of in our presentation, we have called for a court, either a division of the family court or a special court
Mm,
for the elderly, so
hmm.
that they can be given privacy and they can be given care when they come in to report on any form of abuse, because there is nothing on record, and that says a lot. That says a lot because according to the law, every working child or grandchild is responsible for their parent or grandparent.
Yes. So
Yes.
so what were the shortcomings, if I may use that word, of the Maintenance Act? Why you think it was not, utilized properly to address the
I
concerns?
Yes, I think it is because it is not part of a full body of legislation to protect the elderly. I think if there were other, because we are asking for a commission for the elderly, a court for the elderly, and
Hmm.
if there are these facilities put into place, I think then there would be more actions taken around the Maintenance Act.
And you mentioned a commission and a court.
Yes,
Will that
yes.
be a part of the act, the Elderly
The
Care Protection Act?
legislation.
That's a
Yeah,
proposal?
this is what we are calling for. We don't know what it will end up being, but this is what we are calling for.
Hmm.
Yes,
Sounds
and
like a lot.
yeah, there was a point made by Senator Gordon Campbell
Oh,
when we
before,
were to
yeah, I'm
yes.
so sorry, Mrs. Lorchin. Before you go any further, we're up on a break, so I'll be right back to hear your comments.
Okay.
Febreze. Imagine getting home after a long day and it smells so amazing that it makes you smile. Try Febreze Plugs, an air freshener that delivers continuous scent for up to 50 days when you plug it in low mode. Indulge in wonderful scents for weeks with Febreze.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled two dreams with one Jane Bank savings plan, I further my education and I make mama proud.
See so you can make the part, travel part, graduate like a star.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Time and love is now 7:15 a.m.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and it's the first watch. We're seeking to explore and expose why we need laws to protect our elderly. And in so doing, we have online Carita Lawrence, nurse educator and a caregiver, as well as Jean Laurie Chin, founder and the CEO of Caribbean Community of Retired Persons. Before the break, Mrs. Laurie Chin, you were giving us some views, comments in regards to some issues that have arisen. Please go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Toussaint, in our presentation to the Select Committee, we mentioned that persons should look at whether they should be registering power of attorney so that as they get older and may not be able to manage their own business, that they should have power of attorney. However, what Senator Gordon Campbell pointed out was that that still would not give that individual access to the person's bank account. And there have been instances where someone has money in the bank, but nobody has access to it.
Mm.
And therefore, we were saying that, and she suggested that they would get what is called guardianship. And if they have guardianship, then that person would be able to access the funds to care for them when they're not able to do transactions with the bank. So these are some of the things I think we also should look at for ourselves to protect ourselves when the time comes, to learn what legal rights we have and ensure that we put these things into place.
Yeah. Carita Lawrence, you, of course, nurse educator, caregiver yourself. Are some of the challenges that caregivers may face? I mean, I'm looking from the other end now in caring for the elderly. You want to share some of those with us?
Okay, yes, I do. Some of the challenges we face as caregivers are that sometimes family members are not around or they don't spend time to actually understand their own relatives. So the pressure is left on the caregiver to ensure that all needs are met as possible,
Mm-hmm.
while you still have some that will come in and give you that 100% of support. Dealing with each elderly is different and it takes time as caregivers to understand them. And so would implore that family members try and do the same based on their state, their health condition. So for some, emotional abuse, they they are not feeling as if they are given that love and attention that they should have been given as parents because they have reached a certain age now. They feel some felt as if they are parked one side as an old car. Because I've
Mm.
had a patient in that.
Mm.
And for this patient, she had felt that she had done all that she could for her children, but then at the end of the day, she just left alone for strangers to come in and take care of her.
Mm. Are you through?
Yes.
Yes, I mentioned a family not being around, dealing with each person differently, and emotional abuse. Still with you, Carita Lawrence. The caregivers themselves, if the elderly passes, are there some concerns that may develop in that scenario for some of the caregivers who are employed, dependent on that income, and then the person they're looking after has died? What are some of the issues there that you'd like to share with us?
All right. So for caregivers and your patient might pass. Presently, nursing has been evolved now so much now for PCA nurses, which is practical nurses. So most times you'll find that one nurse does not really stick to one place. So they will have several jobs.
Mm-hmm.
While you have some that will stick to one person. The emotional part of it is when you might, for example, you might be doing a private care and your patient die and you're left alone. For some patient, for some nurses, it takes a while for them to get back a job
Mm-hmm.
and they might be out there struggling There's no really contract per se that after the patient die, you are entitled to X, Y, or Z. So it is an independent thing where you go in, you work with the patient. After the patient deceased, your time has ended and you move on.
Mm.
For
Have there been?
me,
Sorry, go ahead. Go
go
ahead. I'm
ahead.
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
For me, I kind of set myself in a certain way where I work along with other parties. So transition as I go along, I might be working with this person, this patient dies, somebody. Based on the nature of the job and the individual you are, you sell yourself as a nurse.
Mm.
There would always be somebody recommending you, so you won't be left alone per se for any long period of time without getting back a job. And then for the deceased family member, once you have a good relationship and you did take care of their individual, their family, then they would recommend you to person. And then
Yes.
the emotional part of it, counseling is very important for both parties.
Yes. Have there been cases where the person who received the care, the elderly, has died, and in terms of the salary arrangements, that was not honored? You know of cases like that, for example?
No, we don't really have cases like that. If
Okay.
that do happen, it's minimal because, as I said, once you, if by right, if you go on duty and you are entitled to work for X amount of hours and the patient die, the between both parties they can come to an agreement if they'll pay you for the entire day or they'll just pay you for the hours that you were there.
Hmm. Okay. Jean Lorichin,
Yes.
there may be those who are arguing that some elderly folk in Jamaica end up reaping what they sow in a negative way. That in their earlier years, for example, they neglected their children, their family in general, or they failed to plan for their retirement. And therefore, what they experience now, in terms of the negativity, and
Yes.
it's really a consequence of what they did or failed to do in their earlier years. How you respond to that?
I respond to that every human being has human rights.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, if the children turn their backs on the parents, then there needs to be a safety net for those elderly. And I must say, I hear that the Minister of Local Government has been expanding our infirmaries. We have gone and done handovers to the Golden Age home, and we find that that home is very well managed. So that is a safety net that is there for those persons. And of course, as you say, prepare. We need to start preparing
Mm-hmm.
from we are in our 20s.
Mm-hmm.
After the first paycheck, they say, okay, go and have a spree. The second paycheck, that's when you start to save. Because as my science teacher told me when she was elderly, she said, Jean, save your money. Retirement, old age is expensive.
Mm.
But I just wanted to pause and give my congratulations to people like Miss Carita Lawrence.
Mm.
Because as you listen to her, you realize what a caring person she is.
Mm.
She's a caregiver and she's talking about emotional support. She's talking about empathy. And I think we need to have more trained persons. What is happening now is that, household workers who have been with people for a while, then they evolve into taking care of them when they become elderly. But they do need special training. And Mona Wellness does offer this, and there are other places that offer training for caregivers. And so that they can become as caring and as focused as Miss Lawrence. So, Miss Lawrence, kudos to you, and I hope more people, more caregivers will be like you. And those who need the training, I would say to the person who are employing them, it is up to you to make sure that this person is well trained and that you make sure you have the right person to take care of your elderly relative.
Yes, yes, yes. We endorse that. Carita Lawrence, What do you say to caregivers generally, whether they are doing it for as a means of employment or just out of love for family members or for friends, neighbors, colleagues? What do you say to the caregivers generally?
Before the first thing I would say to the caregivers, as myself and others out there, be the patient that you would want the nurse to be. Because a lot of us, we want the best. We expect only the best for ourselves, but we do not give off that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're caring for someone, it's not just about collecting a salary at the end of the day. It's about giving a service, and at the end of the day, you comes home and you can say to yourself or to anybody around you or your children, I have spent a day well done. I have
Yes.
done what I've been paid for. My
Yes.
patient is left comfortable. I am feeling I'm feeling blessed. I did something. I give off something to someone today that I'd want to give off of myself. So I just
Yes.
implore on nurses in general, love your patient. Don't just be in it for the money. You have to have
Mm-hmm.
empathy, you have to have passion, you have to have patience because a lot of us don't have that.
Yes. So that
And
again,
as for
please
social media,
be the patient that you what? That you would want what? Could you repeat that?
go ahead for me.
Yeah, could you repeat what you said
If
earlier? Be the patient that you would want what?
be the patient that you'd want the nurse to be.
The
The nurse
nurse to
actually
be.
puts
Okay.
herself in the patient's position. So it's the other
Okay.
way around.
Okay. And Jean Lorichin, what do
Yes.
you say generally now to those who are already aged or nearing there?
I would say to them, prepare for your retirement and write out what you would like to happen, if you get to that end of stage of your life.
You're talking about
Um,
a will?
well, a will is one thing, but in the states, which is legal, they have what is called a living will.
Mm.
So that if it comes to a point where your relatives need to make a decision about your care, you would have written it down for them so that they, because in families, you will have all sorts of arguments about what the parent would want. But why don't you now just write down what you wish to happen to you
Mm.
when you get to that stage of your life when maybe you cannot speak for yourself?
Mm.
And maybe legally set up your guardianship from now with somebody that you know that is trustworthy and honest, that can have access to your funds to make sure you get the best care that they possibly can give you.
Yes. And we're talking about elderly. What does the law say now in terms of the deciding and distinguishing who is now regarded as an elder? Age. Because I think
There
there's
are there
some
are
dispute
so
between
many
60 and
definitions.
65. Yeah.
Yes, there are so many definitions. I think you can say that somebody over 75 can be called old. And then Professor Eldemar Scherer speaks about the older old. And I think that would be somebody like 85 and over.
Yeah.
But, people are living longer. Every year the list of centenarians grow. And it's amazing how well many of them are doing because of the care and attention that they get from their family,
So it's
from
not
their
no
families.
longer 60 to 65.
Well, people are still working. The retirement age is 65,
Uh-huh. Okay.
and a lot of studies have shown. Imagine that your most productive decade is your 60s.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes,
that is
yes.
when you still have your energy and all of that experience and education come together, and you become more productive. It's
Yes.
interesting because even in our organization, we have persons, over 60 and they are very productive,
We have to
very skilled.
we have to
Yes.
leave it there. A word to the wise is sufficient. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us. Very informative, very interesting. Have a safe and productive day.
Thank you, and the same to you
Thank
and your listeners. Thank you.
Listeners, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
possible with a little savings in your hand. Say you
Now
can.
the time by Jan Bank is
7:30.
The name you trust to be your friend, to be a partner by your side. For generations we have been the one you trust as your financial guide. Sagicor, building trust for generations, helping hopes and dreams to grow, building our nation. Sagicor's the name you know. Sagicor,
Sagicor, celebrating 55 years.
building trust for generations.
Baby, we know how important it is to keep you dry and comfortable. At Huggies, we've made it our mission to have the perfect diaper to give you a soft and gentle experience. And even better, a one-up 100% leak-proof protection, even from blowouts. Whether it's playtime, nap time, or bedtime, Huggies keeps you happy. So you can focus on making memories, not messes. Huggies, we got you, baby.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now let's look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing in the Gleaner. Absolute mayhem. 5 killed in crashes on Sunday. Also in the Gleaner, exotic animals and over 3,900 rounds of ammunition seized along shoreline in Westmoreland. In the Observer, is it ENSO conditions may rise or give rise to intense first half of 2025 hurricane season. And also in the Observer, that cut me bad. Distraught dad details moment daughter's body was found in a pit. Oh boy. Loop News. Crawford says future governments should prioritize bus stop shelters to reduce student absenteeism. And also police call on church to speak out on crime. Those are some of the major stories in our newspapers. Coming up next, we'll share some of the feedback from our social media question. What laws do we need to protect our elderly? We're asking you to leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
For Calvary, thank him for his son.
Hearts and Hands presents a fundraising concert for Reverend Glenn Graham, Part 2, featuring Kukudu, Prince Hall, Orville Sutherland, Derek McFarlane, Desmond Saunders, Sister Arlene, Sebastian Graham, Unity Singers, Udrick Tingle, music by DJ Chinny, MCs Nadine Blair and Markland Action Edwards. Admission 2,000 pre-sold, 2,500 at the gate. Ticket outlets at the Brownstown Pharmacy beside KFC. Refreshment on sale. For more information, call 876-885-1055. Friday, June 27, 7 p.m. at the Brownstown Tabernacle, Brownstown, St. Anne. Let's do this for Reverend Glenn Graham. A Love 101 endorsed event. Be heard, be seen by your audience on Love 101 Radio and on social media. Call Love 101 for advertising rates that fit your needs. Exposure for your event, your business, concerts, church activity, civic events, seminars and conferences, job vacancies, specials, and more. Let Love 101 help you get your information out there. Call Love 101 FM now and talk with our sales and marketing experts and get the reach you need. Call 876-968-9596 or 876-968-9597 and ask for our sales and marketing department Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. or email love101fm@gmail.com. Love 101 FM, radio and social media platforms, making it happen for you.
Next time on The Rock, we're digging into marriage traditions. Pastor Christopher Kennedy, Azan Aziz, and Donald Stewart join the conversation as we unpack where our wedding traditions come from. Rings, vows, attire, candles, and more. Are these traditions biblical, cultural, or just man-made? And what happens when we challenge them? From church weddings to giveaway parents, we're asking, why do we do what we do? And what does the Bible really say? Plus, a piece of my mind. What's this week's hot topic? Could be crime, health, education, or a total curveball. Tune in and find out. That's The Rock, Tuesday, June 3 at 10 a.m. right here on the family station Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now join Jokal for a look at how our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp friends answered today's question: what laws do we need to protect our elderly? Jokal.
All right, good morning. So we do have some responses to this question. The first one is from Monica. Monica says, laws to ensure and enforce the responsibility of children to care for their elderly parents. I've seen so many parents abandoned, neglected, abused, and taken advantage of, making them destitute. I took care of my parents who passed in their 90s 6 and 9 years ago. It was very hard, extremely stressful, but I could not on what I knew was my responsibility. I still miss them. Edna from Montego Bay sent a voice note. Let's hear from her.
Good morning, Morning Watch. Good morning, Love 101 listeners and staff. I think the same laws that governs children should govern the elderly also. Once a man, twice a child.
Okay, all right. So that's the end of that. Sherry said, good morning. I can't think of a law. What it boils down to is loving them enough, give them the attention, have patience, and be caring for them as you would want for yourself. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay. That's Monica, Edna, and Cherry.
And Cherry.
Good. We appreciate the responses, ladies. And so we now segue into the second watch, and thousands of Harvard students in crimson fringed gowns celebrated their graduation Thursday as a judge extended a temporary block on Donald Trump's bid to prevent the prestigious university from enrolling international scholars. The student visa freeze, though, is reportedly meant for those who don't already have their visas. Those who do are safe, but for how long? Well, to talk about this and other related matters, we have online Sheena Stubbs Gibson, Senior Counsel of Stubbs, Gibson and Associates, and Nicole McLaren Campbell, founder of AIM Educational Services, educational consultant she also is. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Great, good to have you with us, ladies. I begin with you, Nicole McLaren Campbell. How has or will the student visa freeze affect Jamaicans intending to study in the US, would you say?
Well, there is certainly a delay in the issuance, well, in the visa interviews, which will result in a delay in the issuance of the student visas. So for students headed to university in the US in 2025, they should be leaving, mid to anywhere between the start to the middle of August. And at this point, they are not able to secure an appointment for a visa. So it might result in a delay in them being able to get on the campus. But we just aren't sure yet. There was an update issued by the State Department in a press conference late last week that indicated that the pause was expected to be short and that it would be not weeks and not months. End quote. So no exact date was given for the lift for when the pause will be lifted, but there was an indication that it would not be long. I had a student on Thursday who got a student visa. So, and this was after the announcement, but of course she would have already had that
appointment.
She had the appointment from before. So just to emphasize, there are some people that are saying, oh my gosh, it's a stop on student visas. It's not a stop on student visas. If you had the appointment before, the appointment goes through and things are progressing as per usual. The student, you would expect to get the student visa, all other things being equal. And I say that because there are so many things now impacting whether a student is going to get a visa. If you are a national of a country that there is political tension with the U.S. government, no, you're obviously at risk. There have been several announcements to that effect, even since the visa pause. And so, I'm speaking about the announcement that Chinese and Hong Kong nationals would be facing some difficulty. So I think it's just so important to be aware of what the facts are and be aware of where you fall in relation to everything that's going on, not to panic, to gather the facts. And, before the visa appointment, is a matter of completing all the paperwork and making sure you have everything ready, paying the visa fee, etc., so that when the appointments do open up, you're in a position to grab one quickly. And you're not waiting for the appointments to open up to start the process.
Yeah.
So that's important.
Yeah. I want to drill down further into that. But before we do that, Sheena Stubbs Gibson, what, in your view, are the possible legal issues or implications of this student visa freeze?
Well, in a situation such as this, Stokely, the
Toussaint here.
United States, yes, the United States government would be proceeding on the basis that they are securing national concerns. So, under the rubric of national security, generally speaking, all sovereign states under the rubric of national security are able to put in place measures that may even infringe rights, like civic rights. So yes, the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, which is, as we had discussed recently on one of your programs, so we had said that these are sacrosanct rights that have traditionally been respected and honored, even when they ran contrary to the views of the existing administration. I saw something recently where former President Barack Obama said, "Can you imagine if it was me who had done these things when I was when I was president? Can you imagine what the fallout would have been if I had actually
withdrawn funding from law firms.
Could you hold
that
that thought,
were
please, Sheena Stubbs Gibson? We're up on a break.
Sure.
We'll be right back.
The time that Grace could move is
7:45.
The name you trust to be your friend, to be a partner by your side. For generations we have been the one you trust as your financial guide. Sagicor, building trust for generations, helping hopes and dreams to grow, building our nation. Sagicor's the name you know. Sagicor.
Sagicor, celebrating 55 years.
Building trust for generations.
Oh, Jamaica eyes were built with fire, passion and vibes, and through it all there's a glow inside. Let's keep our shine alive.
From the market to the factory floors, from the hillside green to golden shores,
We're reaching heights, our energy that lights the sky.
JPS, powering what matters.
We've seen a lot of our customers make some good moves over the years. Whether it's sharing a hug with a friend you haven't seen in a long time or sharing a meal, Grace has been there. So let's keep making these moments together, because rest assured, every time you choose Grace, you know you're making a good move.
Always a good move when you're moving with grace.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. In this, the second watch, we're looking on the possible fallout from a student visa freeze. In so doing, we have online Nicole McLaren Campbell, who is founder of AIM Educational Services, and she's also an educational consultant, as well as Sheena Stubbs Gibson, senior counsel of Stubbs Gibson and Associates. I think before the break, Sheena Stubbs Gibson, you were telling us about some of the possible issues, implications of this freeze. Please continue. Civil rights.
saying that when national security concerns are brought to the fore and used as the basis, then those concerns trump even civil liberties. So, in the name of national security concerns, one could end up, for instance, saying that persons are not free to express themselves as they would usually, are not free to assemble. I was making the point that President Obama, former President Obama, in speaking to a group of students sometime earlier this year or last year, I think I saw it, had said, can you imagine if this was me? The truth is that maybe the things that Obama and Bill Clinton and Bush Senior and Junior, the father, the son, maybe the things that they would not have done, even in the name of national security, this administration is prepared to advance different causes and to adopt a new approach, maybe to adopt an approach that would traditionally be seen as quite unexpected, quite shocking. But you know what? They are being advised by lawyers, and they're challenging matters to the courts. Even those students whose visas have been revoked, we know that quite a few visas have already been revoked, and some of them have been challenged in courts in the U.S. on the basis of lack of due process. And I'm certain that these too will be challenged on the basis that they infringe civil liberties, that they breach the Constitution. But at the end of the day, I am not able to say how these proceedings will go, but I always will expect that there will be challenges. There have been challenges
some of these international students have gotten restraining orders, and the processes are ongoing in court. I don't know what will come of this particular order. I think Nicole has done a good job of explaining kind of the social impact side. And as she said, it's very, very fluid at the moment. You're not certain what will happen. So you just have to play it. One thing I can say is that students now have to be very careful because whereas in the past, students in Jamaica or elsewhere would feel that they could easily post something on their status or post something on Instagram or post something on Twitter or on any of the social media platforms that they use that freely expressed their critical stance to political posturing or moves in the United States. Now they may want to think twice about that, to their own self be true. But if you're going to be true to yourself, make certain that you're okay with the consequences. And
I couldn't agree with anything more. I couldn't agree. I'm in such agreement with what you just said, because here is the thing, students have their opinions and their convictions and their values, and we want them to be people of, values and convictions.
Yes.
You just need to understand the implications of doing what it is you're doing, posting what it is you're posting, participating in the things that you're participating in. Just make sure you understand that you being on a student visa is different from your peers who might be U.S. citizens. You have to be aware. I really agree with that, Sheena.
Yeah,
especially in this current, season, this dispensation.
Yeah.
You just have to be very careful.
Yeah,
and I think we all have a responsibility as well, whether irrespective of what is happening right now. I think this is just a teachable moment for us to make sure that we understand, but we are also making sure our children and any young person we have exposure to understands that a digital footprint is forever. You say it's deleted, but is it really ever deleted? And, again, irrespective of whether you're trying to go to US on a student visa or not, the conversation around, what you videotape, what you send, even as your messages, what you post, what you text, it is so important. I mean, we have a 19-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 12-year-old, and this is a conversation we have all the time in our homes. And the teenage brain isn't finished being developed. The decision-making center doesn't, right, Sheena? It doesn't finish till age 25.
Absolutely. 25.
It's real. We need to really sound the alarm, and then other decisions like, you have a student visa, but you decide you're going to get a fake ID with your friend. Or you're going to drink when the drinking age in the US is 21, in Jamaica is 18. Things that might not be illegal in Jamaica, illegal in the state you're in. You have to be very careful, because now, even to keep a student visa is different. Am I right, Sheena?
Absolutely. They are now revoking them for the simplest of reasons, as we have seen. For participating in protests, for things like even traffic violations. Persons have found not just student visa, but even permanent resident statuses are being revoked for what would usually be like misdemeanors that persons would wink at. You have to be very careful.
Let me ask, ladies, and realize you're focusing on the social media and the digital footprint. If a student is doing a research paper, for example, and has to download information to assist his or her, writing or whatever he's going to do in terms of the research, the end product, is it not possible that some of that also could be misinterpreted by whomever is going to be, looking on what they have posted? Because a research is a research. You might be researching on communism. You might be researching on what's
If
going
I
on
just say that
in the Middle East.
quickly,
Yes.
I'll say that quickly, and I'm certain that Nicole, from her perspective, will. But as a person that studied a lot, and I'm still studying at the moment, downloading content, to your device for the purpose of research is quite different from posting.
So it's only the
And I
posting
think
you're
what
talking
they
about. Only the posting
that's
is
what
a
the social
danger
media
flag.
they have said, right? They have said what they have said is that they are looking at the social media vetting policy. So they have paused interviews pending that. So they will be looking at the kind of things that you post. I don't know that they will be looking at your hard drive for your research stuff. My understanding, maybe Nicole can
If you are
comment
in a
on that.
group,
But
for example, Mrs. Stuff Gibson, and you know, you're sharing information. So you have downloaded some
right.
stuff and you have now posted it for the others in the group. All right. Would that be used as red flags? Because I mean,
I
research
really
is
don't
research.
know. I don't want to pretend that I will know how a custom officer, or a border patrol agent, an immigration officer. I don't want to pretend, but what I could anticipate. Let us say that you are researching something on religion, and you are in a group, and there is content that's being shared on what is happening in on the Gaza Strip for the purpose of research, then of course that could perhaps raise questions. But then you could, I am pretty certain that they are not just going to say, "Oh, we see this here, so therefore we're not letting you into our country." If it's always going to be about interviews and if you can satisfy persons. No, a lot of this is discretionary. So it would be out of order for me to try to say that at the end of the day, how a particular immigration officer may perceive your responses. But I imagine that a lot of this will turn on interviews. So do what you can do, as we are saying, in terms of monitoring. As I say, to thine own self be true. If this is not, if your expression of your political views is more important to you, than going to study in the US or elsewhere, then by all means go ahead and express your political views. But if it is that going to study is more important, then you just want to curtail what you say. If you have content on your devices because you are doing research and you're in a group, and those contents get flagged at the border when you try to enter or in an interview, you explain it to the best of your ability and
Nicole,
and leave the rest to them.
Hearing it loud and clear.
Maybe Nicole can add to that.
Well, I really want her to just give us some options now, in terms of those who perhaps are not looking again at the US option.
Funny, you should ask. Of course, that's going to be a natural reaction. And I just want to make it 150% clear. Everything depends. You're a function of your options. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, man.
And so,
absolutely.
Yeah, man.
In this environment, the bigger your budget, the more options you have. So let's not make any mistake about it.
Yeah, less than a minute here.
The US is still the country that offers the most scholarships to international students. Yes, you can get some scholarships from Canada. There's some available, in Europe, not so much in the UK. But we're having a session on Thursday called Study Global at AIM Online Academy /admission series that parents and students who want to explore non-US options can always come. But you want to remember, be clear about your budget. Because that is going to really guide you.
Right. You have to leave it there. What's available. I want to thank you, ladies, for joining us, and all the best. Have a safe and productive day.
Thank you for having us.
Have a good one.
Nice to meet you, Shana. Nice to meet you.
Same here, Nicole. All the best.
Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for a discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information or get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and our guest, I'm Dylan Toussaint, returning you to Love in the Morning with Jokal Dyer.
At the Ministry of Health and Wellness, we are committed to the values of care, compassion, excellence in service, integrity, teamwork, and